Right. Demar Derozan apparently is interested in joining two teams if the Chicago Bulls are indeed going to have a mid-season fire sale. One of those teams happened to be the Miami Heat. Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. My name is Amir. Before I get into today's video, I just want to thank everybody for their continued support. If you could please subscribe to the channel, that would mean a lot to me. I'm on my path to 400 subscribers, and I'm getting really close. So thank you for the continued support. I'm joined today by my buddy Neil. It's been a long time since we've had a conversation, so happy to have you on today. Thanks for joining, Neil. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. NBA is up and running. We're starting to be able to make some impressions on some of the teams, and happy to chat some basketball with you.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here today. So, the Miami Heat have missed out on a bunch of whales and all stars and maybe former all stars, but in the past, 3 seasons or so, we've been linked to players like Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, obviously most recently this offseason, and now DeMar DeRozan. So DeMar is stating that if he gets traded, because obviously the Chicago Bulls are playing horribly, they're like 6-14. They're, I think, third to last in the East. That there's two teams that he'd be willing to be traded to. And all these players have mentioned that they would be interested in signing with the Miami Heat. Bradley Beal is another one that I didn't mention. So the New York Knicks, boo, screw the Knicks. We hate the Knicks. Or the Miami Heat are two destinations that he would prefer. And the Miami Heat makes sense because he could reunite with Kyle Lowry. Miami Heat need a third credible star, if you will. And we've always lacked the firepower in the postseason and the regular season, quite frankly. Our offensive rating has not been the best over the last 3 years. We've been known for having a really good defensive team and kind of a middling offensive rating. Right now, I think we're like 11th in offensive rating this season, which is better than last year. We were like 18, 19. And in terms of points per game, we were like second to last year. Right now, we're like at 22, which is still pretty bad. So I don't know. I'm not too excited about a DeMar DeRozan. Like, he's 34 years old, and I don't know about his fit on the Miami Heat per se, but I'm going to hand it off to you and just want to hear from you. What do you think about DeMar DeRozan at this stage of his career, age 34 years old? Do you think he would be a good fit on the Miami Heat? Do you think he would help improve this roster? And do you think he would essentially get us over the hump and help us win in the playoffs? Most importantly, we've gone to the finals in the bubble. We got to the finals last year. We got to the Eastern Finals 2 years ago. Like, we've had a really good run in Jimmy's window, and we need help, evidently. So, what are your thoughts on his fit, and does he help the Heat? Because we know they're contenders, but does he move the needle? What are your thoughts?
I don't think DeMar moves the needle personally. He's a great player. He's had a great career in this league, but in terms of getting the Heat over the top, I don't think that's what you're looking for, especially when you consider what the Heat would probably have to give up. Chicago will probably be looking for assets that are making their team younger. So you're talking about giving up some of Miami's promising prospects, and that's not a good scenario for Miami. So I don't think that's a trade that Miami should consider. If there was someone on the Heat that I think would make a lot more sense, it'd be someone like Alex Caruso, who you could get for a much more reasonable price and actually kind of fits into something that the Heat might need, which is a great defender. Scoring is an issue. I'll grant you that. But then when you look at what Miami's been able to do in the playoffs and how they've been able to succeed, like, Jimmy just turns into an absolute offensive machine that kind of gooses up their offensive production in the playoffs. I think in the regular season, the Heat are just like, this year at least, they're like, if we avoid the play-in tournament, we're in a good place. Last year they kind of screwed around too much in the regular season. They ended up in the play-in tournament. As long as Miami avoids the play-in tournament and gets into the playoffs without having to play extra games, they're going to be a tough matchup for whoever they're going to play. And they seem like they're on their way to getting a top 6 seed. That doesn't seem like it's going to be out of the realm of possibility. They already know that they own the 76ers. They've had a lot of battles with the with the Celtics and the Bucks. So I think they'll be fine when it comes to a playoff series. And when we're talking about Milwaukee, they're having a lot of growing pains trying to integrate Damian and Giannis together. And they have a coach who's never been in the playoffs before. So Eric Spoelstra has a clear edge. So I don't think you need to give up anything that is considered valuable from Chicago's perspective to get this 34-year-old person like DeMar, who might not even make you that much better. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
What do you think if all it took was giving up Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick? Like, what's if Chicago's willing to accept that deal because they assume maybe they can get better for a Levine who's 28, younger, even though his market's not that great right now, but he's interested in going to the Knicks or the Lakers and a few other teams. For that hypothetical scenario, Lowry, the Heat would actually have to get someone in return because, or it's actually very close. Lowry's making like 29 point something, like round up to 30, and they're both on their final seasons of their contract, and DeMar's making less, like 28 point something. So I think like Lowry's making 1 million more. Would we have to give up a minimum to match? I guess we would, right? So it has to be even. So Lowry and like a G leaguer basically in a first round pick. Like if they were willing to accept that because they're assuming they can move Levine eventually or like a Voos, or even get some assets for Caruso, which like he's shown interest across the league that he can maybe get a first round pick, which is kind of wild to a certain degree. But if you were Miami and the asking price was Kyle Lowry and a first round pick and like a nobody, what would you say?
Well, Miami's been able to use their draft picks pretty well if you think about it. So I think that has value for the Heat. Like just look at Jaquez. He's really producing much earlier than I thought he would. I thought he was a good fit with Miami. I just didn't think it would hit this fast. So given what Miami is able to do with their draft picks, I still think that holds a lot of value. So if you're taking a look at the comparison between DeRozan and Lowry, maybe DeRozan's a little bit better, but the first round pick could actually hold a lot of value, especially if you can get someone on the caliber of Jaquez with that pick. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think Lowry is a liability to the team and you need to kind of juice up the scoring? DeRozan's certainly going to help with scoring. He's a great mid-range player. He seems like he would fit in well in terms of culture. He's got a lot of respect from a lot of his peers. But I just don't know if it's worth it. It seems kind of like a lateral move if you trade Lowry. I don't see what it brings to the table. And if you're giving up a draft pick, that could be something that could be really valuable down the road, given the draft history the Heat have.
I guess, but during Jimmy's build and timeline, like he's going to turn 34 this year. So time's running up. He has like a year or two left. So I don't think you need to worry about what the future first round pick's going to do for you because we're lucky with Jaime this year, but like Jovic 2 seasons ago is 20 years old, second season, barely played last year, like not ready, like doesn't fit into our scheme, doesn't play defense good enough. He's super raw still, has like the skill set that you want, like in a KP type of player, you know, a 6'11" unicorn who can like be better than KP, I think, to a certain degree, like ceiling wise, hypothetically. Like he's a better, I think, dribbler and I think a little more athletic than a KP, but he's a KP type player. But KP is definitely way better. Porzingis, that is, on defense. But he is that like 6'11" guy who can kind of handle the ball, can dribble a little bit, can shoot, spread the floor. He's not even in the rotation. You know what I mean? So like I don't know if that we have time for that pick to develop. Like right now, like Jaime is like a blessing that he's blossoming this quickly. So Kyle, the issue with trading Kyle, he's the only point guard on our roster, but he's 37. He's averaging 10 points a game. He's had some really good games the last 3 out of the 4 have been really good. But in the 18 games that we've played this season, he's had 6, 7, 8, 9 games that were mediocre. He's
That's
37
probably
years
what
old.
happened in the playoffs too. Like he'll throw out one of those vintage performances, and then that'll be followed up with like 2 or 3 shitty games.
Yeah, he was inconsistent in the playoffs. Like he played better this playoffs than the year before, or year and a half ago where we lost to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. He was hurt, banged up, so he wasn't consistent. So the issue with trading Kyle is then we have no other point guard on our roster. Drew Smith, who was a freaking G League min contract dude who got converted to a standard contract, tore his ACL or something recently. So we have literally no other point guard. And the only other guards we have on the roster are Jay Rich, who's kind of a combo guard, but more so of a shooting guard, small forward, 6'6". Tyler Hero, shooting guard, 6'5". And Duncan Robinson, 6'7". He's more of a shooting guard, small forward. So we don't have any other point guards. So that could be an issue. But the biggest issue with the Miami Heat right now is their scoring, right? So, like, I would be open to trading Kyle. Kyle's 37, going to be 38 this year. And he's still pretty washed. Like, he's having some good games. Every 2 out of 5 games, he's doing well, right? That's fine. But it's a long season. He can get hurt at his age, and the recovery time is longer. So if he gets hurt, then we're kind of screwed. And we have a lot of playmakers that can bring the ball up and create. So we have Tyler, who's been hurt, but he'll come back. He can create, right, offense and score for himself. Bam Adebayo can bring the ball up. Jimmy Butler can bring the ball up. Caleb Martin, even off the bench, can facilitate and kind of be a 3-level scorer. Not really, but he's very athletic. He could kind of shoot the ball from deep, attacks the rim well. So he likes to have the ball in his hands when he's on the court. So I don't think we need a true point guard necessarily because of the playmakers we have on the team. So you're going from a guy who's averaging 10 points per game in Kyle Lowry, who's 37, to adding a DeRozan for him and a first round pick, which again, we don't have time to develop because that's a first pick next year, right? And then that player has to show out and get into the rotation like Hawkes did, which didn't take too long. It took him 3-4 games of the 18 that we've played so far to make an impression, right? But he wasn't in the definitive rotation at the beginning, especially when Tyler was healthy and Jay Rich was brought in. And he also did get thrusted in early because Caleb Martin missed the first 9 games, right? And Haywood Highsmith was also hurt. And so once Haywood came back after his mild injury, he started 10 games. We won on a 7-game win streak, and we won 8 out of those 10 games that Highsmith was starting, right? So it's surprising that Jaime got the opportunity and has done well. So for Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick for DeMar, I would take it because I know he's 34 years old, but he's still averaging 21, 5, and 3. And it's not the best fit because he doesn't spread the floor, and he's similar-ish to Jimmy Butler. But he is a proven scorer and can be a problem in the mid-range, right? Like, he's going to attract some attention. And Bam has elevated his game. So we would have a fourth capable scorer on our team if we keep Tyler. I think that might detract Tyler's growth. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on, based on what I said as a real Miami Heat fan, and you're an outsider, right? I think hopefully logically what I said is reason enough for you to agree that Kyle and a first round pick for DeRozan would make sense. But what do you think about when Tyler comes back? Because that's going to be an odd backcourt of Hero. The starting lineup would be Hero, DeRozan, Bam, Jimmy, and like a Haywood Highsmith or like Caleb Martin, right? So small ball. Would that stunt Tyler's growth? Does it make sense to stunt Tyler's growth to add a DeRozan type of player on this roster? Tyler's having his best year of his career. Before he got hurt, he was averaging 23, 5, and 5, shooting really efficiently, 43% from 3. What are your thoughts on that, like in terms of stunting Tyler versus just like adding a proven scorer and all-star, former all-star to the team?
Well, what I thought was interesting about what you said was how there won't be like a true point guard on the roster if Lowry was traded, which I think is interesting. That might make you seek out something in the buyout market to try to
Totally.
fix that. Like
John Wall, Austin Rivers, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that'll create an additional need that might need to be filled later. In terms of stunting Tyler Hero's growth, I don't know if that's going to be a problem with DeMar DeRozan. He doesn't seem like the type of person that'll just kind of soak up shots to himself. I think if he requested to go to Miami, that already indicates an impression about what he's walking into. And he probably knows he's not going to be at the top of the food chain when he gets to the Heat. It's obviously Jimmy's team, and then you have like Bam, who's continuing to improve every year, and then Miami continues to want to get Tyler Hero his opportunity to shine as well. So if Demar is the type of person that he's demonstrated throughout his career where he's kind of about winning, I don't think that's going to be a barrier to helping Tyler Hero get his and continue to improve. And that was my point that I made earlier in terms of like if you brought in DeMar DeRozan into the locker room, I think culturally it'll be fine. I don't think that there's any reason to worry about how it's going to coexist with all the players. I'm just wondering if it's enough of a upgrade to really make you feel substantially better about your team. But you made a lot of good points about Kyle, how he's kind of he's just out there and he's good for one game every couple of weeks or so, which isn't good enough in the playoffs. And I really can't argue with any of that. So if you're willing to give up the first round pick, kind of just say whatever, this rookie that we could potentially bring in 2025 might not even matter to what we're trying to do right now, and you can get that deal done, then yeah, I think those are all fair points that you're making. And then you would just have to seek out a point guard in the buyout market for a veteran minimum or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I'm also thinking that first round pick is going to be way later. Like if we add DeMar, I think over Kyle because the money matches essentially. So we're just losing Kyle for him. And I think if we add DeMar to the team, I think he improves our offense enough where we win a few games extra over Kyle Lowry, let's say +4. And let's say we're projected 45 wins. We had like 42. We had 44 last year, I think. We're like 44 and 30. Or no, where were we? 40. I think we're like 43 and 39 or something, whatever that is. You're the math guy. We're like 3 or 4 games over 500.
But over 500, but less than 45 maybe.
Yeah, so like I think like adding him would give us to like get us up like 3 or 4 wins especially from last year, because we're deeper.
I think last year was a little bit of an outlier, just in terms of not caring too much about the regular season.
Well,
the Heat should be like approaching 50. I think that's the baseline.
We were the third most injured team in the NBA last year. So,
right.
What does that tell you? What were the Sacramento Kings? Do you know what they were?
I'm pretty sure they were the healthiest team last year.
What was their record? What seed were they?
I know that they were the 3 seed and they won the division.
What are they now?
Like the Suns and the Lakers and the Clippers.
What are they now? 7 through 9, whatever the hell they are, right? Like because they're not the hell. I mean, also,
well, yeah, Fox has already missed a lot of games, and yeah, that kind of hurt them in the standings for sure. Yeah.
Right. So exactly. So the Heat were close because they had a lot of injuries. Now we're deeper. I think we're deeper now with Jaime, and Smith is getting a lot of game. Last year he didn't play a lot, but he played good in the playoffs and the finals, and he's like in the rotation, became a starter. Josh Richardson's on the team now. Kevin Love is on the team now for a full season. Thomas Bryant, Orlando Robinson, like we're a deeper team now, right? And so I think that's going to help us. But if you add like a DeMar, I think that helps us win a few games, gets us up to like a 3 seed, maybe a 4 seed, versus the freaking 7th seed technically, but 8th seed going into the actual playoffs after the play-in. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would do it for Kyle. I would do it for Kyle on a pick for sure. Like I wouldn't do it for a Hero because the salaries obviously match. We'd have to throw in someone else because I think Tyler's making like 26, 27. So DeMar's making more technically. So let that fucking sink in. Kyle Lowry's making more than Hero right now at age 23. He's scoring 23, 5 and 5, best season of his career so far. But I think I would do it. I think it would help us for sure. Not saying to put us over the top, but I think it would help us right now. So I think that's it for the video. My consensus after all this is like I would do it as long as we don't give up Tyler or Duncan, who, holy shit, before I end the video, I don't know if you've been watching Miami, but that
I
dude has been
against
fucking.
Milwaukee, and I think I know where you're going with Duncan.
That guy went from literally sharpshooter, best 3-point shooter, 44% high volume 3 years ago to like 2 years ago, went from 44 to like, all right, he's back down to 40, kind of coming back to earth, and then went to 38%, like just like huge drop, and like wasn't in the rotation, got hurt, and only a 3-point shooter, and came back to life last year in the playoffs, and like dribble penetration, passing, defense has been unreal compared to what it was before. And he's been crushing it since Tyler Hero's been hurt. And he's shooting like close to 39%. So he's still not there, but he's doing so much more. He's getting to the rack. He's making layups. He's like getting his teammates involved and passing way better. Defensively, dude, like he is not being isolated and targeted every play. Like, here's a sign that the refs give him some credit. He was averaging like 5 fouls a game last year. Just like white guy, only using his hands, holding, fucking hand checking, right? Like he's averaging like 2, 3 fucking fouls a game, dude. Like the refs are not calling fouls on him every play because he's not just using his hands. Like he's moving his feet, like he's buying in on the defensive end, like he's playing better. Like he would foul out of games a lot, and like they would target him, and like he would give people so
And
many.
that's going to impact like your shooting. If you're trying to become a more all-around player, yeah, your 3-point shooting might go down a little bit, but the improvements in all the other parts of your game kind of offset that to some degree. Like if he's just out on the court thinking I'm going to shoot wide open threes at 45%, but my defense sucks, I'm getting isolated on one-on-ones, pick and rolls, whatever it is, I can't drive to the basket, create an extra threat. Like, okay, yeah, you're going to shoot 45% from three. But, I mean, 40% is still, like, above average if you think about it. It's still very good.
Yeah. Did you see him cross Giannis in that game in the Bucks for the top of the key? He crossed him over, took it to the rack, and made a layup.
I know you texted me about it as soon as he did it.
Bro, also against Wemby, did you see that highlight? I sent the highlight in the text group. He freaking did a Steve Smith. He did a freaking hezzy fake, right, on the baseline and did a layup against Wemby, like against Giannis. Like, these are highlights. Like, he's crossing fools up. Like, he crossed up AD and got it to the, like, Duncan Robinson crossing anybody from the 3-point line, not on a pump fake, like off the dribble, crossover hezzies. Not like you got to rush him off the line. He's going to pump fake, duck, drive in. Like one-on-one, man-to-man, got to the rack on AD. Just those 3 players alone this early in the season, like he's never done that in his career. AD, Wemby, and Giannis. I don't know. Are those guys good defenders or are they shitty?
Well, I mean, it just really speaks to Miami's ability to develop players, consistently upgrade their skill sets. It's that's why they call it heat culture right there. Like Duncan Robinson continued to become a different kind of player that you have to account for in different ways now. Now you have to worry about his handles and his ability to get to the rim, and you can't just take advantage of him on defense anymore.
I mean, Hawkins, baby.
He's a great player. I'm very impressed by what I've seen so far.
Heat culture, speaking of that. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think that the Heat should trade for DeMar DeRozan? I don't know what that would look like, but I mean, are you guys willing to trade Lowry and a pick and maybe someone else for him, like an Orlando Robinson, some sort of standard small contract? Let me know what you guys think. I think we should do it. I think it would help us a little bit. I don't know if it means winning a championship. There's no guarantee, but I think it does move the needle in a positive direction. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good night. Take care.
Kyle Lowry, though.
What?
That's nothing more than Kyle Lowry. That's about the max it can go to get DeRozan, I would say.
Yeah, no way. I'm not. No Highsmith. No Caleb Martin, no Robinson, none of that. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you guys soon.